Well, our top focus story this Tuesday morning continues to remain India's COVID-19 second wave. Now, India is inching closer to the 2 lakh cases a day mark. The healthcare system is stretched out thin across different parts of the country. Let's focus on the national capital first. Delhi has reported 11,491 cases and 72 deaths in the last 24 hours. This is the highest since the pandemic began. The positivity rate in the national capital is at 12.44%, the highest number of deaths that Delhi has seen since the 5th of December. Delhi's Chief Secretary is holding a review meeting and has given directions to ensure that every family with COVID-19 cases is given a pulse oximeter, and a 24/7 cell is created across 11 hospitals of the Delhi government. Meanwhile, 14 private hospitals, including Gangaram and St. Stephen's Hospital, the Tis Hazari, have now been declared as full-fledged COVID-19 hospitals and have been directed not to admit any non-COVID medical surgical patient till further orders are put in place. 3,202 beds will now be reserved for coronavirus patients across these 14 hospitals. Now, as the rise in cases continues in the national capital, the demand for oxygen cylinders is also growing. Experts warn that Delhi can soon become as bad as Mumbai.
With over 10,000 daily cases of COVID-19, Delhi is now at the 3rd spot among states in terms of COVID cases. With the spike in cases, the demand for oxygen cylinders and oxygen concentrators has gone up 3 times among Delhi's 17,000 home isolation patients. Suppliers are flooded with calls and are now purchasing more stock to meet the increased demand.
Where I was probably getting inquiries for 1 or 2 concentrators a week, now I'm almost getting 30 in a day. So of course the demand is there, and I think the fear is also there in people. So they just want to keep a backup at home.
Even resident welfare associations like this one in South Delhi's Greater Kailash have come forward to help by hiring oxygen cylinders and concentrators.
Last year, through our last year's experience, we know that these machines helped 23 of our patients, and we have the exact numbers in terms of how it helped. About 4 of them survived with these machines for 3 days before they could get a hospital bed, which was critical, let me say. And now within the whole locality, everyone knows machine is ready at hand, middle of the night, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and it'll be okay. They don't even need the machines. Within this locality, there are about 18 patients.
Experts warn that the situation in Delhi could soon be as bad as Mumbai.
Delhi Health Minister Satyendra Jain today said that he has appealed to the centre to allow 3,000 additional beds for COVID in central government-run hospitals. Currently, only 1,000 beds are available in such hospitals for COVID, unlike the last week in November when the centre had allowed 4,000 beds across its hospitals. In New Delhi with camera person Sushil Rathi, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
Well, let's now shift our focus to the worst hit state of Maharashtra, which has recorded 51,751 cases in the last 24 hours. This is a drop from the previous high of 63,294 cases. 258 deaths have also been reported in the state in this time period. Now, Mumbai, remember, has seen close to 7,000 cases in 24 hours, recorded 43 deaths. Pune continues to remain the worst hit across Maharashtra with close to 10,000 cases and 6 deaths that have been reported in the last 24 hours. Now, as the lockdown seems imminent, especially in Mumbai and other parts of Maharashtra, many businesses have started asking workers to leave. And at Mumbai's Lokmanya Tilak terminus, long queues of people have been seen waiting to find a place on trains that are leaving for Uttar Pradesh and for Bihar. While in some cases, people are also travelling for festivals, a major chunk of the crowd at the moment at these stations appears to be people who are heading back home because of the fear of an impending lockdown. Here's the full story.
Long queues outside the Lokmanya Tilak terminus in Kurla. Reminder of last year. These were pictures that we saw last year here at the LTT, and if you look at it now, it resembles what we saw last year. People fleeing because the lines are long, The trains are few, space is not easily available on the trains. So people have turned up at the station hoping to find a train to take them home. Several of them are leaving because of the lockdown.
Standing in the April heat for hours, a scramble for water being distributed free. Railway policemen constantly making announcements asking people to maintain social distancing. Mumbai is most vulnerable if a lockdown comes into effect. Taxi drivers, shoe polishmen, construction workers and small shopkeepers. With construction activities, places of worship shut, the situation is already bad. The Siddhivinayak temple generates employment for thousands of people. All fear more restrictions. 45-year-old Santosh Kesare says he will go back to the village in Kolhapur this time with his family of 4. Last year, he had stayed back. His earnings have come down from rupees 1500 a day to 500 a day. And a lockdown will be the last straw.
अभी ये सिद्धिविनायक में इधर से उधर तक लाइन लगता है. अभी धंधा ही नहीं लाइन ये 1 घंटा इधर खड़ा है मैं.
तो यहाँ पे सिद्धिविनायक भी बंद है क्या?
बंद है, मंदिर बंद है.
63-year-old Sunil Pawar has been running this small shop for 40 years. From 6 employees, before the new restrictions came into force, he has just 1 left. He sells Mumbai's favorite snack, the vada pav, just outside the Siddhivinayak temple.
कर्जे में तो ऐसा ही हमारा कर्जे में ही दुकान डूबा है अभी फिलहाल. अभी गवर्नमेंट ने सोचना चाहिए लॉकडाउन कैसा करने का, क्या करने का. ये अभी लाइट बिल तो 60,000 आया है बिल, कैसा भरेंगे अभी.
35-year-old Arvind Ram from Bihar says some people he knows are planning to leave. He used to earn rupees 300 a day. Now he barely makes enough to have 2 meals.
सर लॉकडाउन ही हो जाएगा तो हमें पब्लिक से ही कमाना है साहब. लॉकडाउन ही होएगा तो क्या करेंगे हम. बस यही है कि सरकार से यही विनती है, अगर पूरे तरह से लॉकडाउन कर रहे हैं तो सर जरा गरीबों पे जरा ध्यान दे. हम लोग जूता पॉलिश करने वाले हैं. बस यही है, थोड़ा सा अगर किसी से मदद मिल जाए हमें अच्छी बात है सब.
Construction workers from Bengal have already started leaving the city. This group of workers from Birbhum district have already booked their tickets for 19th April.
मिस्त्री है, सब कारपेंटर है, मतलब बिल्डिंग बनाने वाला, प्लास्टर बनाने वाला, ऐसा सब बेकार मिस्त्री है. 42 आदमी है बंगाल का, वेस्ट बंगाल का. हम लोग को भागाना है, मतलब गांव तो जाना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो यहाँ पे बैठ के क्या करेगा.
But the trouble now is getting tickets on trains.
इधर से कैसे जाए घर पे. बाहर उधर पुलिस पकड़ रहा है, उधर टीटी पकड़ रहा है, तो कैसे जाए. पैसा नहीं है खाने का, तो टिकट का पैसा कहाँ से लाऊं.
Many are now coming to stations to somehow find a train home. The railways have asked people not to arrive at the station without confirmed tickets.
This is the situation in the Lokmanya Tilak terminus of Mumbai, which is one of the places that has a major, crowd or major capacity of trains leaving for UP and Bihar. In Mumbai with camera person Sanjay Mandal, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
Well, the silver lining, as they call it, is Mumbai's test positivity rate has in fact dipped. Maharashtra COVID Task Force member has in fact confirmed this to NDTV. Even as Maharashtra continues to remain the worst hit state, there could very well be a silver lining in Mumbai. Mumbai's TPR or test positivity rate, as it's known, has seen a slight dip in the last 3 or 4 days. Is it too early, however, to celebrate this? That's the big question.
Dr. Joshi, I remember we had you on NDTV 2 months ago where you warned that there was a spread of a variant and how action needed to be taken fast, genome sequencing, vaccination. Today, when you see what's happening in Maharashtra as it heads for a lockdown, as patients are crying for remdesivir, doctors are exhausted, what would you say?
So it's a very grim situation. And, we should have nipped it in the bud, but the virus is more in the mind than in the body. And, we are a very rebellious, community at large. There should be zero tolerance for lack of adherence to COVID appropriate behavior and protocols. But there is some silver lining. Mumbai today has reported only 6,900. People will say it's a Sunday effect. But last 3 to 4 days, Mumbai has started reporting a TPR, task positivity rate, which was around 27-28%, now coming down to 17-18%. And this is the 5th consecutive day where we are seeing a below TPR because we ramped up our testing exponentially. We had a maximum capacity in the last surge last year was around 18 to 20,000. Now we are testing around 50-60,000, and with that we are definitely seeing that.
No, so
the other thing is that the case fatality rate is still low, and clearly
No, that's a very important point, Doctor, that you're saying that Mumbai is coming down. Of course, Pune has reported 12,000 cases in the last 24 hours, but it's a good silver lining in Mumbai.
Welcome back. Mamata Banerjee was banned from campaigning in Bengal for 24 hours last evening over speeches that the Election Commission said violated the poll code. The Chief Minister was accused of breaking the law with her comments on Muslim votes and for allegedly urging voters to revolt against Central Security Forces. Mamata Banerjee has announced a sit-in protest against the ban to protest against the undemocratic and unconstitutional decision of the Election Commission of India. I will sit on dharna at Gandhi Murti in Kolkata from 12 noon is what she tweeted. The TMC continues to maintain that this is undemocratic.
It's an unprecedented ban, a ban for 24 hours on Mamata Banerjee, and the Trinamool, of course, has condemned it in the most strongest terms. A black day for democracy, and Derek O'Brien here is carrying it on his chest, the message that the Trinamool wants to put out. Your first reaction to what happened?
Black day for democracy. When you can't beat us, you ban us. But this is the first sign which confirms what we've been saying all along now, which the Delhi Noida channels are not understanding. We are ahead. This is an act of desperation. So it actually confirms what we've been saying all along, that wheelchair or broken ankle, nothing can stop this lady, because the people of Bengal have really seen the kind of work which has happened. Lots of good work, not perfect. So we're all set to win this.
So an act of desperation by the BJP, but where does the Election Commission come in here? I mean, it's an independent outfit.
Yeah, so I learned that in my civics book in school. When we said EC, it meant something. But in the last few weeks or months, EC equals extremely compromised.
You all have been to the Election Commission today, written to them, asking for a ban on certain persons who have said some extremely controversial things about the Sheetal Kuchi incident. Have you heard back?
No, we've written 1900 letters. They replied to 3. People, not only in Bengal but across the country, have seen the kind of language not only used by the BJP state president or candidates. We have all respect for the chair of the Prime Minister, the chair of the Home Minister, but Modi and Shah are speaking like a pair of thugs. They're saying there's nothing left unsaid. They're so desperate to win this, and today's action, the gentleman who retired today, new person taking over tomorrow, we've been saying this, and people are not, people are intelligent. Trinamool doesn't need to say it anymore.
You are saying the impact of it is all known. So why would the BJP do something like this?
Khala hobe. Match on. That's all I can say. But I don't think this is about Trinamool Congress anymore. It's not about Trinamool Congress winning an election. It's not about Trinamool Congress forming a government in Bengal. It's not about Mamata Banerjee being a chief minister for the 3rd time. This is way beyond that. This is the people of Bengal versus Modi and Shah. That's this election. This is Modi and Shah versus the people of Bengal. Come, get us, because we'll give you back as much as we get.
From 12 o'clock tomorrow, Mamata Banerjee will be sitting on dharna at the Gandhi statue in the heart of Kolkata to protest the Election Commission's decision to ban her from campaigning for a full 24 hours. The shock decision, shock for the Trinamool Congress, and of course the BJP believes it is a deserved ban. That shock decision means that the 4 rallies she was scheduled to hold are not going to be held tomorrow. One of them was here at Salt Lake, and you can see banners, posters are still going up over here. But no point. The rally can't be held, at least not with Mamata Banerjee attending. Here is this huge tent that had been built for the rally, all lit up right now, chairs put in place. But tomorrow, unless the candidate, Sujit Bose, plans to continue his rally regardless, unless that happens, this rally is not happening. The Election Commission has banned Mamata Banerjee from campaigning for 24 hours because of what she said on the 3rd of April at Tarakeshwar. That's where she had apparently, allegedly, appealed to the minority community to not split their votes and vote for the Trinamool Congress. That is the complaint that EC responded to issue this unprecedented ban. The BJP has welcomed it. Ever since Shitolkuchi, the leaders have been raising the tempo and saying Mamata Banerjee was to blame for the 4 deaths in Shitolkuchi because she had incited people to attack the central forces. But the Trinamool has called today, the 12th of April, a black day. It has called Election Commission or EC extremely compromised, and Derek O'Brien has tweeted to say that we knew always that we were winning. The bitter battle between the BJP and Mamata Banerjee for Bengal has just taken an acid twist. Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
Well, from West Bengal, let's now shift our focus to Tripura, where Tripura's former Congress chief and royal son Pradyut Dev Burman got 2/3 majority in the Tripura Tribal Council polls. Listen in to this first exclusive interview.
I've been telling all my friends that it is possible to win and create a third space if we remain clear, because I'm not left and I'm also not extreme right. So I want a space which is in the center, and from what we have felt in the Northeast is that the New Delhi, the national parties often don't hear or don't align with us or don't even try to understand what we are talking about. I have myself been in the Congress, and I've always felt that this miscommunication, this distance has always worked against the interest. So there was a feeling in the entire Northeast and in my state as well that you have to either align with BJP or the Congress to win an election in the Northeast or in Tripura as well. Well, I thought that this was possible, and we fought. We've got a team of all young people. In fact, out of the 19 candidates which have won, 14 are those who are below the age of 40, some even 29, some 30, all professionals. None of them, barring 1 or 2, have any political background. And we fought, and we fought well. We fought on our own against the biggest party in the world, BJP, against the oldest party in India, Congress, and against a CPM party which is very formidable. They were there for 25 years. And yet we've got 2/3 majority on our own. So I think it says something about, to all our brothers and sisters from Northeast, if we, the indigenous people of Northeast, unite on issues which are common to us, like Citizenship Amendment Act, National Register Charter, the plight of the tribals, especially in parts of Tripura, the Tiprasa people, then we can send a message to New Delhi that don't take us lightly. We are here to stay, and not every politician or not every leader is purchasable.
Welcome back. At a time when India is reporting its highest single-day cases so far, the Subject Experts Committee has recommended Sputnik V, the vaccine against coronavirus developed by Russia for emergency use in India. The final call on the matter will be taken by the Drug Controller General of India once approved by the DGCI. This will be the third vaccine approved by India after Covishield and Covaxin.
So India is gearing up for a new vaccine, the Russian-made Sputnik V, which means that India soon will have not 2, but 3 vaccines, which at a time when the country desperately needs more and more is definitely good news for all. So let's take a look at how Sputnik V is different from the other 2 vaccines presently available in the country. Is it better, and importantly, does it work against the new double mutation? Let's begin by looking at the technology. Sputnik V is an adenoviral-based vaccine. It uses a weakened virus and stimulates an immune response. This is similar to what Oxford AstraZeneca jab Covishield does as well, which uses the virus that causes chimpanzees to get the common cold. While the Bharat Biotech Covaxin is different. It is an inactivated vaccine, meaning it is a chemically killed virus which once infected and injected in your body will then mimic the strain and develop an antibody against COVID-19. Let's look at how the doses are now. While all three are 2-dose vaccines, Sputnik, unlike the others, actually uses 2 different versions of formulas for both its jabs given 21 days apart. The idea is that using 2 different formulas boosts the immune system even more, unlike the same being used twice, which is the case for, say, Covishield and Covaxin. Sputnik claims that this gives longer lasting protection, and the 2 different formulas is not just proved effective, it is also something that makes it safe with no serious reactions. It is also what gives Sputnik V around 92% efficacy. And it has also been deemed to be safe and offer complete protection against hospitalization and death. Now, this is where Sputnik really scores against the other 2 vaccines. While AstraZeneca and Covishield have the efficacy of roughly about 70%, Bharat Biotech Covaxin, though not peer-reviewed, claims to have 80%. Storage, not an issue with all 3 vaccines, as all 3 can be stored at refrigerator levels, making it conducive for India. However, Sputnik V scores in this as well, as it is freeze-dried vaccine, meaning it comes in a powder form. It improves the stability along with the storage and shelf life of the vaccine. Now, let's talk about the most pressing bits. Does it work against the new variants? Now, while all vaccines claim to work against the strain but don't really have any data or study backing these claims, Sputnik V, by its own admission, says that it is less effective against the South African variant, but compared to all the vaccines in the world, it is the best at neutralizing the UK strain. Now, Covishield claims it reduces the rate of hospitalization in the UK strain, but remember, South Africa had sent back 1 million AstraZeneca jabs to India, saying it does not work against their strain. While in the case of Covaxin, the ICMR gave a statement saying that it works against the UK variant. So with all this, it really comes down to how soon can we have the vaccine in India, and what about its manufacturing capabilities. Now, good news here is that Sputnik has already partnered with several Indian manufacturers, and it is going to produce and supply a minimum of 200 million doses. But the not so good news here is that, at least so far, they say they will be ready by only the 4th quarter of this year. Let's leave it there for the moment. Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor, NDTV.
Well, let's get you up to speed with India's vaccination numbers. Well, it is the 87th day of the COVID-19 vaccination drive. And on day 2 of the Tika Utsav that was announced by the Prime Minister, more than 37.63 lakh vaccine doses were administered till 8 p.m. There are a total of over 10.82 crore doses that have been administered across the country so far. The government is now allowing COVID-19 vaccinations at workplaces that have more than 100 eligible employees. This is in line with the centre's aim of speeding up the vaccination drive across India.
Biocon employees in Bengaluru appreciate the COVID-19 vaccine coming to where they are, rather than their having to go in search of it.
Generally, we used to go for hospital for getting the vaccine, but with this initiative, we are getting vaccinated within the company, and this is very nice initiative.
The vaccination at work drive in Bengaluru, a city hit hard by the virus, kicked off at Biocon, near Electronic City on Hosur Road.
Today, of course, we are kick-starting this vaccination drive. Right now, across the Biocon group, we have roughly about 1,000 employees who are eligible for the vaccination. And we hope that in the near future, it will open up to the entire company. So we will be ready to vaccinate whenever they allow.
The DC of Bengaluru Urban, the worst hit district in the state, was on hand.
See, this vaccine festival especially at workplaces. We have started this drive from Madam's company out here. This company, being in Electronic City, is the face of Bangalore. And then we wanted to spread out a message to all those eligible beneficiaries over 45 years of age to get themselves vaccinated.
In the national capital, Indian oil employees lined up for their jabs on the job. Delhi is another big city hit badly by rising COVID numbers.
तुरंत ही हमने जो है अपने एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को कहा कि आप डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के संपर्क में आइए। हमारे यहाँ इस बिल्डिंग में 45 साल के ऊपर वाले जो हैं वो 200 से स्लाइटली कम है। पर हमने क्या किया है, सिर्फ इस बिल्डिंग तक सीमित नहीं रखा। हमने हमारे और भी इंडियन ऑयल के जो ऑफिसेज हैं जो आसपास, तो उनमें भी जो है हमने आमंत्रण भेजा कि ऐसे हम करने वाले हैं 12 तारीख को, और आप लोग सब इसमें आएँ और अपने यहाँ टीकाकरण करा लें, ये सुविधा हम दे रहे हैं।
India, with its massive population, has already vaccinated millions. But the scale of the challenge is huge. And anything that can speed the process up needs to be tried. With Parimal Kumar in New Delhi and DM Kumar in Bengaluru, Maya Sharma for NDTV.
Well, a centre in Hyderabad, which is exclusively meant to achieve 100% vaccination of frontline workers, threatened to turn into a COVID hotspot with several people lining up for long hours. There was a rush of demand, but the supply of vaccine ran out. Uma Sudhir with the full story.
Rush of GHMC sanitary workers at a government school in Mushirabad that has been converted into an exclusive vaccination centre for frontline workers. NDTV had reported last week that less than 50% of the frontline workers have got vaccinated. Subsequently, the Chief Minister had said that within a week, 100% of the frontline workers must be vaccinated. But you can see the mad rush that is happening here. This is inside the vaccination room that we are talking about, and a huge number of people here waiting here. And if actually Nagraj pans outside, you will see there are more people here as well rushing at the door, waiting that their turn should come in for the vaccination itself. No social distancing at all. Yes, they are wearing a mask, but some of them are not either. And I will also show you that the vaccine stock has actually run out. The sister here tells us that she had come with about 130 doses of the vaccine, and she's left with hardly about 20-25 doses now. And how is she going to vaccinate all these people? That's going to be a big challenge. The vaccination center itself has become a COVID risk with the crowding.
इतने देर तक है, फिर अब भिजाए तो कैसे मैडम? लोगों में फिर कोरोना ज्यादा होता ना, और टीका लेने के वास्ते ही छाए मैडम। हम सुबह से यहीं छिटाए रहे, खाना नहीं, क्या भी नहीं, पानी भी नहीं है यहाँ क्या?
Many anxious sanitary workers had to return disappointed.
अभी थोड़ा वैक्सीन है, अभी 20 जनों को आता, लेकिन ये उन लोग नहीं सुन रहे, ऐसा ऊपर ऊपर गिर जा रहे, कितना 200 बार बोले, लेकिन इन लोग सुने ही नहीं रहे।
The Telangana government had on Saturday said they are running out of vaccine and asked for 30 lakh doses. The centre has promised to deliver 3.62 lakh doses on Monday. It's Ugadi festival, but still there is going to be a huge rush. The vaccinators, the nurses, all of them are going to continue with the vaccination drive because a more important Tika festival is on in the country. A drive in order to vaccinate the maximum numbers, but the problem has become the short supply of the vaccine itself. In Hyderabad with camera person Nagraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Well, a commonly asked question about the vaccination is that, is one vaccine safer than the other? Experts say this is a public health emergency situation and people should not think twice before taking the vaccine. Speaking on why people are getting infected even after vaccination, experts say that vaccines do not provide 100% immunity, adding that those who've been vaccinated do have milder cases of COVID-19, but you can still get the infection.
Many questions came up when there were reports of over 30 Gangaram doctors testing positive, even though they had taken both doses of the vaccine. Is also with the international questions about AstraZeneca, which is Covishield in India, is one vaccine safer than the other to take? And if you're still getting the disease, many people say, why should we go through the side effects? What would you say as someone from Gangaram Hospital whose colleagues may well have tested positive?
Sonia,
think whenever we've spoken about the vaccines, no one who's knowledgeable has claimed that the vaccine will provide you 100% protection against the infection. We've always said take the vaccine because this is the best available right now. It's not ideal, but it will at least cut down the severity of the disease, if not anything, and that is something we are seeing. So out of all the healthcare workers who tested positive in Gangaram, all of them have fortunately got very mild disease. And you know that you can't say that the vaccine has had no effect. Percentages, in my opinion, don't matter right now. I think these figures that we're saying, whether it's 60% or 70% or now it's down to 20% against a particular strain, it has no value. You have a vaccine, which is the only option you have. There is no other option. The vaccines are safe as they can be in the present day scenario. It's a pandemic situation. We are facing an emergency. The Indian vaccine has not been studied abroad. You see, we are getting a lot of adverse effect reports on the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is the one that we are taking in India, because this has been studied in Europe, in the UK, everywhere.
Right.
In India, we've not had enough people take Covaxin. It was also, like Dr. Joshi said, it was an emergency approval for the vaccine. So I think both vaccines are equally safe or equally unsafe, whichever way you might want to put it. But the point is, people should not go away saying that, oh, there's no point taking a vaccine. Please take the vaccine.
It's the only weapon we have.
Well, the big breaking story we're checking for you at this hour, the Sputnik V vaccine, the Russian-manufactured COVID-19 vaccine with an efficacy of almost 92% has been granted emergency use authorization in India. This is the big story that is coming in. The Drug Controller General of India has confirmed to NDTV's Parimal just moments ago that India has granted emergency use authorization to its third vaccine against the coronavirus, the Sputnik V. This, remember, is the Russian vaccine. And what sources are telling us at the moment is that the vaccine will be available in India by the beginning of May. Remember, it's interesting that this vaccine is already being produced in India in collaboration with Dr. Reddy's, and Kirill Dmitriev, the CEO of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, has said that in the end of the ramp-up, India will be producing tens of millions of Sputnik V doses a month. So this, of course, is the big story that we're tracking. Sukirti joins us with the very latest. Sukirti, what more can you tell us at this point?
Well, yes, the Drug Controller General of India, the DCGI, the topmost authority for approving vaccines in India, has given a go-ahead for the Sputnik approval for emergency use authorization in India. Yesterday, the expert panel of the subject expert committee of the drug regulator had already recommended it for approval, and now the final yes has also come from the drug regulator of India. This, of course, is going to be a significant move for India, which is already facing a vaccine shortage. Sputnik's most important factor is that it has an efficacy of 91.6%, higher than both the other vaccines that are being used in India at this point, Covishield as well as Covaxin. And this is going to be a big boost in terms of our production capacity. However, if we are looking timelines at this point of time, then as the CEO of RDIF has pointed out, that at this point of time, the initial doses will have to be imported from Russia in all probability. So by May, first week of May or second week of May, somewhere in early May, we will start seeing those doses coming in into India. But of course, there are at least 4 to 5 other pharmaceutical companies with which RDIF has done a tie-up. And the manufacturing of Sputnik doses within India is also expected to begin somewhere around late April or May. But those indigenously produced vaccines might be rolled out at a much later stage, but at least the initial stock of vaccine doses for Sputnik will have to be imported. Once the production begins within India, the capacity is for production of at least 50 million doses per month by later this year.
Right, Sukirti, appreciate you for joining us with those details. The million-dollar question, of course, is when will India be able to inoculate its population with the Sputnik V. Remember, this is a vaccine that has close to 92% efficacy, that has been peer-reviewed by the Lancet as well. There are 5 manufacturers in India that will be producing doses, and Kirill Dmitriev, the CEO of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, in fact has told NDTV that India shall receive 1 million doses by May 2021. Listen in.
We believe that the first doses will be delivered either end of April or maybe more realistically early May. But definitely in May, India will be receiving the doses. And as you know, we also have 5 great manufacturers in India who will be producing doses as well. So we see that May is the time when Sputnik will be launched in India. But of course, it will take a couple of months to really ramp up production capacity. So we believe by June, we will really be at very good production capacity in India and will become a very meaningful player in vaccination program in India. And before that, we will be supplying doses, but definitely will be much smaller in market share versus the existing great Indian vaccines that you have. At the end of ramp up, India will be manufacturing, tens of millions of Sputnik a month. So we expect the monthly production volumes in India to actually exceed 50 million doses a month, in the summer. Now, to get there, we are working on amounts that will only finalize after the final approval comes, because we need to really prioritize the countries that gave us approval already. So right now, we expect that we will definitely have some doses ready for Indian market in May. This will not be, a huge number. This will be something to get us started, but then eventually we will go to 50+ million doses a month in India of Sputnik vaccine.
Well, India is going to become the 60th nation to approve the Sputnik V vaccine. This is a major milestone, says Russia. In a statement, they say that they've appreciated India's decision of granting emergency use authorization to Russia's vaccine. Russia, India are developing an extensive cooperation on clinical trials and local production. The statement also reiterates the Russian vaccine efficacy of 91.6%. Sputnik V provides full protection against severe cases. India is a vaccine manufacturing hub and the strategic partner for production of Sputnik V. Over 850 million doses will be produced in India annually. This as per the statement that has been released by the CEO of the Russian Direct Investment Fund. So at a time when India is battling a second wave of coronavirus cases, we are seeing over close to 2 lakh cases, India inching closer to the 2 lakh cases mark. This indeed is good news. That a third vaccine against COVID-19 with an extremely good efficacy rate of almost 92% has been granted emergency use authorization. As per what we're learning from sources right now, over 1 million doses of the vaccine will be rolled out in India by the first week of May. Well, Delhi is reporting 11,491 cases and 72 deaths in the last 24 hours. This is the highest ever since the pandemic began. The positivity rate in the national capital is at a worrying 12.44%. This is the highest deaths that the national capital has recorded since the 5th of December last year. Delhi's chief secretary held a review meeting and has given directions to ensure that every family with a COVID case has a pulse oximeter, and also given directives to create a 24/7 cell in 11 hospitals of Delhi. This as 14 private hospitals, including some of the top hospitals in the city, have now been declared as full COVID hospitals and have been directed not to admit any non-COVID medical surgical patient until further orders. 3,202 beds have now been dedicated and reserved for COVID patients across these 14 hospitals. Well, let's take a look at vaccination. On day 2 of the Tika Utsav, there were more than 37.63 lakh vaccine doses that were administered till 8 p.m. last night. Over 10.82 crore doses were administered across the country so far. Sukirti, who's been tracking the details of India's vaccination drive as well as the COVID story, joins us at the moment. Sukirti, worrying story at the moment as far as COVID numbers are concerned. This is not just an urban phenomena, worrying also to see cases rising in rural pockets. The vaccine dissemination has picked up pace, and of course good news coming in terms of the Sputnik V vaccine being granted emergency use authorization as well.
Well, yes, definitely good news on the vaccine front with approvals for Sputnik V coming in, and as my colleague Vishnu Shom spoke to the RDIF CEO, the chances are that those Sputnik V doses might be rolled out somewhere in early May in India. So good news on that front. But of course, worrying news coming in from the national capital, which has recorded over 11,000 cases, and also 14 big private hospitals that have now been declared COVID dedicated. We are standing outside one such hospital, which is Max Super Speciality Hospital in South Delhi, Saket. Max has 2 other blocks as well in this entire premises. Those will continue to function for non-COVID patients, but one of their buildings of Max Smart has been declared COVID dedicated. Similarly, certain branches of Fortis, Apollo have also been declared COVID dedicated. Up to 3,000 beds across these 14 big private hospitals will now be meant entirely for COVID patients. But what does this mean for the common man out there in Delhi, for COVID and non-COVID people who are trying to get an admission into the hospital? Let me simplify it for them a bit at this point. While these hospitals are yet to receive the internal notification, what we are hearing from the hospitals at this point is that no new admissions will be taken at these 14 big private hospitals for non-COVID patients. So one point is that. Apart from that, non-COVID patients who are already admitted in these hospitals, what happens to them? Now the hospitals say that people who are almost on the verge of recovery, they will be discharged. As far as moderate patients are concerned, at least the bigger private chains like Fortis or Max might try to shift these patients to the other branches which are still functioning for non-COVID patients. As far as the more severe patients are concerned, their situation will continue to be monitored, because we have to understand this is a medical issue, so patients can't simply be thrown out if they are in a very intense condition. So based on the condition of the patient, of course, there will be efforts that will be made to discharge the patients or shift them to other branches. So this is bound to cause a lot of inconvenience to the public in the upcoming days, and even today, as soon as the notification is received and things are implemented on ground, there are problems that a lot of people, just because there is a pandemic does not mean that other diseases have disappeared. So a lot of people who are coming for surgical procedures as well are bound to face difficulties.
Thank you for joining us. Well, from Delhi, let's now shift our focus to Maharashtra. My colleague Saurabh Gupta is tracking all the details of the story from Maharashtra. 51,751 cases, Saurabh. It is a drop from the previous 24 hours high. At the same time, a lockdown is imminent. What more information do we have of any kind of a timeline in place right now?
Well, what we are expecting is that the government will have a cabinet meeting, and around the 15th, whatever new restrictions come into place is likely to come in. But there's no official announcement. What the government is also asking people to do is not to believe in rumors. And the railways, in an exclusive interview yesterday, also did tell us that, people shouldn't throng railway stations even if they want to leave the city during the period of the lockdown. There are tickets available, trains are going to be functional. All you need to do is buy a confirmed ticket. The railways are also increasing the number of trains to places in UP and Bihar, given that majority of the crowd that wants to leave are headed to these destinations. So they are saying that just come with a confirmed ticket and you will board a train and go. There's no unreserved travel allowed now, so there's no question of you boarding a train without a confirmed ticket. And that's something that perhaps is the message that the railways wants to send out, as there are, of course, people who are, trying to leave fearing an impending lockdown in Mumbai, and a lockdown is more or less essential now. The government says that it is the last resort, but it has to do something to break the chain, to stop the spread, because medical facilities are overwhelmed and they are running out. So obviously the state government is also doing, a lot of stuff, especially in Mumbai, to increase the number of beds available in the city.
and that's something that the the BMC has also done by increasing the number of the number of beds by enlisting certain 5-star hotels to try and sort of increase the number of beds. That's something that they want to do. In fact, the BMC in a message does say that all the measures that are being taken to sort of increase the number of beds in the city, amongst them, of course, after enlisting certain 5-star hotels, they will also they're also sort of doing other things like increasing jumbo COVID centers in the city, and that is something that the MCGM says has added 325 additional ICU beds in various hospitals, and they will operationalize 1,100 dedicated COVID hospitals and dedicated COVID health centers, including 125 ICUs in the next 7 days. Besides, the government has also decided to build 3 more jumbo field hospitals in 5 to 6 weeks to cater to the spread of COVID-19. And one thing that one needs to keep in mind when talking about Mumbai is isolation is very difficult here as compared to other cities where people live in larger homes, people have bigger spaces. In Mumbai, space is a huge constraint.
Yes.
So everyone lives in small homes, cramped situations. So that's something that is a huge challenge for a city like Mumbai.
All right. Well, it's going to be extremely interesting to see what the strategy is of the state government. They have continued to say, Saurabh, that a lockdown is imminent. No clarity on timelines so far. We will continue to track the details of that story very closely. From Maharashtra, let's shift our focus to Kerala, where the Chief Minister has written to the centre saying that there is only 3 days of vaccination left. The Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan has written to the Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan asking for more vaccines for the state. Sneha joins us with the very latest. Sneha, what more can you tell us?
Well, in fact, Rishika, this letter from the Chief Minister to Union Health Minister also mentions that they have been giving around 2 lakh vaccination doses every day, and they only intend to ramp it up to 2.5 to 3 lakh doses every day, especially as the cases are going ahead. And the CM says the best way to tackle this at this point is to extend the vaccination drive, for which they would require more vaccinations, and that's why the Chief Minister has asked for 50 lakh doses of vaccination in the coming days, saying that they are left with only vaccinations for 2 to 3 days. But also let me give you a sense of why this drive is very important. Like the rest of the country, these are also the festivity days. Tomorrow is going to be Vishu. It's already the Ramadan month where people would be fasting. In fact, this is, just to give you a glimpse, these are the Kannikun flowers, and these are the flowers of the season. Now, what has happened during these festivities is people tend to come out in the markets a lot. It's of course important for businesses because it's been a bad year financially, with many businesses hit at so many levels. But the government also looking at what could happen with large numbers on the ground. Caution, people being asked to be cautious at several levels. The health minister yesterday, while speaking, reminded people that let the Vishu celebrations be restricted to homes. Don't go into crowded places. Wear your mask. These are the warnings that are being given out to people largely. Let's also try and speak to some people, sir. ഇന്നത്തെ sales എങ്ങനെയുണ്ട്? കുറവാ. The sales are less. എന്താ കാരണം കുറവാന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ?
കോവിഡ് ആയതുകൊണ്ട് അതിന്റെ പ്രശ്നത്തിൽ ആൾക്കാരൊന്നും ഇപ്പം ഒന്നും ഇല്ല. ഇപ്പം ഇന്നോട്ട് ഇവിടെ എല്ലാം നിലവിൽ വന്നിരിക്കുകയില്ല. പിന്നെയും 9 മണി കട തുറക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തുള്ളൂ. രാത്രി 9 മണി കട അടയ്ക്കേണ്ടി വരും.
രാവിലെ എത്ര മണിക്ക് തുറക്കാം?
രാവിലെ അത് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ല. രാത്രി 9 മണിക്ക് അടയ്ക്കുന്നതാണ് പറയുന്നത്.
Sales are less. People are coming out less to buy the stuffs. These are, the essentials that would be bought for Kani, for the Vishu Kani. And just not that, they are talking about how there will be likely to be restrictions also, which may kick in later today or tomorrow. That's the final decision which is yet to be taken. So that's the situation on the ground.
All right, Sneha, appreciate you for joining us with the very latest. We will continue to track the story very closely. We're going to slip into a very short break. On the other side, we have a panel of expert doctors joining us to make sense of India's COVID crisis. Stay with us. Welcome back. The big breaking story at this hour. We have the latest COVID numbers for India. The big breaking story at the moment, 1,61,736 new cases have been recorded in the last 24 hours, 1.61 lakh. That's a slight dip from yesterday when India had recorded 1.68 lakh cases. 879 deaths have been recorded in the last 24 hours. This is for the 7th straight day that India is seeing over 1 lakh cases. It is for the 3rd straight day that India is seeing over 1.5 lakh cases of COVID-19. We'll keep a close watch on all those numbers to make sense of what's happening in the country right now. We have Dr. Mufazzal Lakarwala. He's an advisor, BMC for COVID jumbo facilities. He's also director of surgery at the Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital in Mumbai. We have Dr. Suranjit Chatterjee, senior consultant, internal medicine, Indraprastha Apollo Hospital, joining us from Delhi, and Dr. Vivek Nangia, the principal director and head of respiratory critical care medicine, Max Saket, also joining us. Dr. Mufazzal, if I can begin by asking you first about the big shot in the arm, the big story that we're tracking, which is emergency use authorization being granted to a 3rd coronavirus vaccine, the Sputnik V. Does this ring in some hope at a time when we're seeing this major rise in COVID-19 infections across the country?
Nishika, we are the most populous country, one of the most populous country with probably the 2nd largest number of cases in the world. And therefore, we do know one thing is that the vaccine is the only way to blunt the edge of this epidemic, to decrease the number of hospitalizations, to decrease the number of severity of coronavirus cases. And we do know over the last week or so that we were probably falling short of the number of cases as compared to the number of cases that had to be administered the vaccine. We've probably administered close to 7 to 8% of our population. And therefore, another vaccine coming in, especially with the efficacy of 92%, really augurs well for our population. I think that's a great move by the DGCI.
Right. I want to also, though, ask you a follow-up question that the rollout of this vaccine is only expected by the first week of May. Does the timeline at all worry you, given the fact that we're still looking at a rollout a fortnight away?
Yes, I think we are already a little bit late in approval of another vaccine. I don't know the logistics of when they are applied and stuff like that. However, the second wave is well and truly here. And because of the problem that people are not following COVID-appropriate behavior, we will never get a control of the second wave. We've still got religious, we've still got political, we've still got various other activities that are going on in full swing. And it's not possible to control the second wave if we continue this behavior.
All right. Dr. Chatterjee, let's just shift our focus to Delhi for the moment, because lots of questions coming in from our viewers. There are 14 private hospitals now that have been dedicated exclusively to fighting COVID-19. What does this mean for patients who had elective surgeries scheduled, patients who are already admitted into, say, non-COVID wings in these hospitals? Do we have any clarity?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation right now with all the admissions. Like from yesterday, our hospital stopped admitting all regular patients that were planned for today. The surgeries have been all postponed. The non-COVID patients have been asked not to report to the hospital anymore. So it's going to be a difficult job. But what is more important is the patients who are admitted with us. What is going to happen to them? We have hospitals which are full. The ICUs are full because unfortunately at this time, unlike last year, the non-COVID cases were all coming to the hospitals, and the hospitals absolutely full of non-COVID cases as well, along with the COVID cases. So it's going to be a very, very difficult situation for the patients. It's going to be a tough task. And because even the non-COVID patients require treatment, and big hospitals like Apollo or for that matter, Gangaram, they all treat a variety of cases. There have been cases which have been scheduled from months in advance. There have been cases which come from outside Delhi. I think the patients are going to non-COVID patients are unfortunately going to suffer a bit.
All right, non-COVID patients are going to suffer, especially in the national capital. Dr. Nangia, what do you make of this move? It has been a sudden move to now dedicate 14 private hospitals exclusively to COVID-19. Like Dr. Chatterjee is saying, it's going to be extremely challenging for those who are, say, battling other conditions and are in critical care. What happens to those patients?
Yeah, I fully agree with Dr. Chatterjee. It is not going to be easy to be throwing all these patients out of the hospital immediately. I guess it will take us some time to create all those beds, but we'll do it. sooner or later we'll have to do it, because this deluge of COVID patients that we're facing now, otherwise will, totally, put a lot of pressure on our healthcare system and make it difficult for us to survive otherwise. So I guess we'll have to create something, whether it means creating some artificial, like temporary structures and keeping patients there. Something of that sort will need to be done.
Dr. Nangia, what happens to elective surgeries?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. That you can't even compromise on the care of the patients who are already suffering with non-COVID illnesses and require surgery. So there have to be some kind of a balance which will have to be struck. I guess some hospitals will have to be COVID, some will have to be non-COVID. That's the only way one can function.
Dr. Nangia, what happens to patients who have elective surgeries, scheduled surgeries in these hospitals?
So, the elective surgeries will probably need to be cancelled as of now, because they're not emergency. We'll have to tackle with the emergencies. That's what happens in a war-like situation also, that you triage your patients and see that who requires a priority treatment and who does not. Those who have a minor ailment, those who have elective surgeries will probably have to postpone them. In any case, I would say it is not safe to carry out elective surgeries right now when there is such a deluge of COVID patients that they're also likely to catch COVID from within the hospital.
Right.
So I guess we don't have any choice but to, follow the line.
All right. Well, that's an interesting take, Dr. Nangia, at the moment, that if your surgery isn't, it isn't an emergency and it can perhaps wait, then it may be a safer option for you to defer it as well, given the extent of the pandemic right now. We also have Dr. Devendra Nayak, Medical Director, Sri Balaji Super Speciality Hospital, Raipur, joining us. Dr. Nayak, one of the characteristics, a worrying characteristic of the second wave of COVID has been the proliferation to rural areas as well. It's not just a high-rise or an urban phenomena. As someone who's based in Raipur, are you seeing a huge influx of patients from rural areas? What's your assessment?
Basically, Chhattisgarh is the small state, and we have seen there the explosion of COVID. And this COVID is exploding like everything, like they are coming from the Maharashtra border. And now they are encroaching to the rural area also. It's a situation is like that. This is the explosion like of these things, because of the small state. There is the small facility is there. So this rural area, they are affected more because they don't have infrastructure facilities like metros. And the things is that the Maharashtra border, they are affected most, like the Bemetara, Rajnandgaon and the this Durg district.
Yes.
They are affected more, and now and they are migrating to the capital like Raipur.
Right.
So but anyhow we could manage that. But the thing is that the rural populations, the advantage is that they are mostly crowdless and their immunity is good.
Okay.
But this time of situation, the infectivity is 2 to 3 times more than the previous one. So this type of situation is there, and people are neglected usually. Like
Right.
they are like neglecting this COVID virus this time. So we are facing this the tremendous outgrowth of the COVID virus.
All right. So worrying story even in a small state like Chhattisgarh, and what you're saying is that there is a lot of influx of patients into a city like Raipur from adjoining rural areas in Chhattisgarh as well as Maharashtra. So, a lot of pressure on the healthcare system as well. Dr. Mufassal, I want to come back to you on the other big story as far as Maharashtra is concerned. It is the worst hit state, even though there has been a slight dip in the numbers in the last 24 hours. Does that A, indicate that the weekend lockdown worked, and B, is it just a matter of time now, before, say, a major lockdown is announced in the state, because it does appear at the moment to be the only way to break the chain of transmission?
I think the Chief Minister has given umpteen warnings to the public that please use appropriate behavior, otherwise you will leave me with no choice. Because when we fall short of hospital facilities, when we fall short of drugs like remdesivir, or fall short of oxygen, how much can you expand? How much can you put an effect on the medical doctors or the frontline health workers, including the nurses? So I think we've left him with no choice. I do believe that the numbers have come down, probably because not so many people have gone for testing. It's too early to see the dip in numbers because of a weekend lockdown. I think to see the effect of break the chain would take between 10 to 15 days, because people who become positive would already be there. So I think it will take a little while, but I think we are headed for a lockdown in Maharashtra. And we've given this period of time for the migrant workers to avoid that crisis. Probably for those people who want to leave, those people who want to stock up, to do that bit in the last week or so.
All right, so a lockdown in the state of Maharashtra is imminent, perhaps the only way to break the chain of transmission at this point. 14 private hospitals in the national capital have been dedicated to COVID. This is going to compromise non-COVID care for patients. And meanwhile, a worrying story as far as the rural proliferation of the second wave is concerned. Dr. Nayak, Dr. Fazal, Dr. Suranjit and Dr. Nangia, thanks so much for sparing your valuable time this morning and being with us on NDTV. We will continue to keep a close watch on all these developments and bring you up to speed with the very latest from your states and, of course, the pan-India picture. Short break here. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us. Welcome back. On to the big political story. We're checking. Mamata Banerjee was banned from campaigning in Bengal for 24 hours last evening over speeches that the Election Commission said violated the poll code. The Chief Minister was accused of breaking the law with her comments on Muslim votes and allegedly urging voters to revolt against central security forces. Mamata Banerjee has announced a sit-in protest against the ban. She tweeted to say to protest against the undemocratic and unconstitutional decision of the Election Commission of India, I will sit on dharna at Gandhi Murti, I beg your pardon, in Kolkata from 12 noon today.
It's an unprecedented ban, a ban for 24 hours on Mamata Banerjee, and the Trinamool, of course, has condemned it in the most strongest terms. A black day for democracy, and Derek O'Brien here is carrying it on his chest, the message that the Trinamool wants to put out. Your first reaction to what happened?
Black day for democracy. When you can't beat us, you ban us. But this is the first sign which confirms what we've been saying all along now, which the Delhi Noida channels are not understanding. We are ahead. This is an act of desperation. So it actually confirms what we've been saying all along, that wheelchair or broken ankle, nothing can stop this lady, because the people of Bengal have really seen the kind of work which has happened. Lots of good work, not perfect. So we're all set to win this.
So an act of desperation by the BJP, but where does the Election Commission come in here? I mean, it's an independent outfit.
Yeah, so I learned that in my civics book in school. When we said EC, it meant something. But in the last few weeks or months, EC equals extremely compromised.
You all have been to the Election Commission today, written to them, asking for a ban on certain persons who have said some extremely controversial things about the Sheetal Kuchi incident. Have you heard back?
No, we've written 1900 letters. They replied to 3. People, not only in Bengal but across the country, have seen the kind of language not only used by the BJP state president or candidates. We have all respect for the chair of the Prime Minister, the chair of the Home Minister, but Modi and Shah are speaking like a pair of thugs. They're saying there's nothing left unsaid. They're so desperate to win this, and today's action, the gentleman who retired today, new person taking over tomorrow, we've been saying this, and people are not, people are intelligent. Trinamool doesn't need to say it anymore.
You are saying the impact of it is all known. So why would the BJP do something like this?
Kala hobe. Match on. That's all I can say. But I don't think this is about Trinamool Congress anymore. It's not about Trinamool Congress winning an election. It's not about Trinamool Congress forming a government in Bengal. It's not about Mamata Banerjee being a chief minister for the 3rd time. This is way beyond that. This is the people of Bengal versus Modi and Shah. That's this election. This is Modi and Shah versus the people of Bengal. Come, get us, because we'll give you back as much as we get.
Monideepa joins us with the very latest. Monideepa, Mamata Banerjee is likely to hold a dharna at 12 noon to protest against this 24-hour ban. What are you picking up?
Not likely. She'll definitely be there at 12 o'clock at Gandhi Murti, which is in the heart of the city and has been a favorite protest site for Mamata Banerjee for many, many years. She will be there today at 12. We have not been told how long the dharna is going to continue. It could be all day. It could extend, we don't know. So we'll have to figure that out on the ground. But she'll be there, the Trinamool will be there. And clearly the Trinamool, as you heard Derek O'Brien position the whole thing, the Trinamool is certainly going to be, making the most of this protest that they are planning through the day today. Also remember, what is going to happen because of the ban on her is that there is no more campaign left, no campaign time left for Mamata Banerjee, in the next 24 hours, which is the last few hours that the party has, or any party has, to campaign for the 5th phase of polls in Bengal on the 17th. If you recall, in an earlier order, the Election Commission had said that there is going to be a silence period, not of 48 hours, which is normal, but 72 hours. This, of course, after the Shitalkuchi incident. Now, just, I'm sort of remembering that on the 25th of September 2006, when the whole Shingur movement was beginning to peak, Mamata Banerjee had done exactly this. She had gone to the Gandhi statue and sat on dharna. Now we know what happened after that, what the Shingur movement did for Mamata Banerjee. The Trinamool Congress must hope the same. But I also believe that there is a consideration of legal action. Is it something that the Trinamool will explore? We'll have to see through the day what it does, but that is a possibility. And of course, the BJP is watching all this with hawk-eye. How will this all play out in the next few phases of election? That is the big talking point at this moment.
All right, Monideepa, we'll keep a close watch on all those developments. Mamata Banerjee to hold a dharna at 12 noon to protest against the 24-hour ban on her by the Election Commission. How this plays out is, of course, something that remains to be seen. Let's shift our focus from West Bengal to Tripura, where Tripura's former Congress chief and royal son Pradyut Dev Burman got 2/3 majority in the Tripura Tribal Council polls. He spoke with Ratnadeep. Listen in.
I've been telling all my friends that it is possible to win and create a third space if we remain clear, because I'm not left and I'm also not extreme right. So I want a space which is in the center. And from what we have felt in the Northeast is that the New Delhi, the national parties often don't hear or don't align with us or don't even try to understand what we are talking about. I have myself been in the Congress, and I've always felt that this miscommunication, this distance has always worked against the interest. So there was a feeling in the entire Northeast and in my state as well that you have to either align with BJP or the Congress to win an election in the Northeast or in Tripura as well. Well, I thought that this was possible, and we fought. We've got a team of all young people. In fact, out of the 19 candidates which have won, 14 are those who are below the age of 40, some even 29, some 30, all professionals. None of them, barring one or two, have any political background. And we fought, and we fought well. We fought on our own against the biggest party in the world, BJP, against the oldest party in India, Congress, and against a CPM party which is very formidable. They were there for 25 years. And yet we've got 2/3 majority on our own. So I think it says something about, to all our brothers and sisters from Northeast, if we, the indigenous people of Northeast, unite on issues which are common to us, like Citizenship Amendment Act, National Register Charter, the plight of the tribals, especially in parts of Tripura, the Tiprasa people, then we can send a message to New Delhi that don't take us lightly. We are here to stay, and not every politician or not every leader is purchasable.